Coalition MPs risk a voter backlash if Malcolm Turnbull was cut down as Prime Minister before the next election, with nearly three-quarters of Australians wanting an end to the leadership instability plaguing Canberra. The final Fairfax-Ipsos poll for 2017 has found 71% of voters think elected Prime Ministers should govern for a full term, rather than being dumped prior to an election. In a finding that will give nervous Liberal and Nationals MPs pause for thought, support for allowing a Prime Minister to serve a full term leaps to 80% among coalition voters. The poll also shows Labor has maintained its commanding 53% to 47% lead over the coalition on a two-party preferred basis, the same result as surveys conducted in September and May. If that result was repeated on election day, there would be a 3.4% swing away from the Turnbull government which, if uniform, would trigger a loss of about 16 coalition seats and hand power to Labor. The Coalition and Labor each suffered a 1 percentage point dip in their primary vote, falling to 34% and 33% respectively. There has been growing chatter in coalition ranks about Mr. Turnbull's future as Prime Minister, and the government has consistently trailed Labor since claiming a narrow win at the July 2016 election. Parliament resumes on Monday for the final sitting week of 2017. With same-sex marriage laws expected to pass and the constitutional eligibility crisis coming to a head when all MPs table their citizenship documents by Tuesday. The Fairfax-Ipsos poll found Foreign Minister Julie Bishop is now the most popular choice as preferred Liberal Party leader for the first time. 32% of voters preferred Ms. Bishop, whereas 29% picked Mr. Turnbull. Tony Abbott, 14%, Peter Dutton, 5%, and Scott Morrison, 4%, were well back in the field. But among coalition voters, 35% backed Mr. Turnbull as Liberal leader and 29% backed Ms. Bishop. Ms. Bishop, Mr. Morrison and Mr. Dutton are most often discussed as potential Liberal Party leaders should Mr. Turnbull be moved on. Mr. Turnbull on Sunday dismissed suggestions he could be replaced. I have every confidence that I will lead the coalition to the next election in 2019 and we will win it, because we are putting in place the policies that deliver for the Australian people, Mr. Turnbull told Sky News. Mr. Turnbull conceded he was working to communicate more clearly and perhaps more succinctly with voters and again flagged personal income tax cuts could be announced before the next election, however they would not necessarily kick in until after that next election. He also hailed Barnaby Joyce's thumping win in the New England by-election as a big vote of confidence in Mr. Joyce, the coalition, and the government. The poll was conducted Wednesday to Saturday, during another difficult week for the government. A Nationals backbench revolt on Thursday forced Mr. Turnbull to reverse his long-standing opposition to a royal commission into the financial services sector. A thumping 71% of voters surveyed in the Fairfax-Ipsos poll supported a royal commission into Australia's banks, insurers and superannuation funds.